The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.
Hello, everyone. It is Dr. Michele and Rich Valdez.
Hello, everyone.
We are here to welcome you to Late Night Parents, and we're taking it on in the absence of Mr. Ted Hicks, who dumped us this weekend.
The nerve of him, I mean, I know he's such a busy guy, and he always, is running around, so he deserves some time off, but, he just left us here to it. I hope we don't burn the place down.
Well, I hope his team won.
I don't even know. I wasn't watching. I didn't get any messages. I didn't hear any screams. So I think he's probably a happy man.
Well, with that being said, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Late Night Parent. And in segment number 3, we are going to have Mac Bogert from AZA Learning and author of Learning Chaos, How Disorder Can Save Education. And he'll be joining us. And I'm looking forward to that segment, especially since I have 2 kids that are still in the school system.
See, I have at least avoided that. That is past me now. I have the 3, but 2 are completely out of college and everything. I've got 1 left in college. So it's still interesting, though. I mean, sure, I'll have grandchildren sooner or later. And, I'll try not to voice my opinions when they come along. But you know how it is. You still want to assist.
Well, by then, the educational system will probably be so different.
For the better, you hope.
All righty.
So this will be, let's also mention our sponsors and friends out there in the airwaves. You can also hear us on the I-95 Sports Network. You can hear us on UNIR1, on MyHigh, on Life Improvement, on the Underground Arena Sports Network, and XRP Radio. You can also subscribe to the podcast on SoundCloud, on iHeartRadio, and on iTunes. And, of course, I don't want to forget our sponsors here and those allowing us to broadcast here in WGBB 1240 AM, which I just learned was also the oldest radio station on Long Island. That's pretty interesting.
Always learn something new every time.
Yeah. So this is going to be, I guess, we're going to start this. We'll call this the Ask Dr. Michele edition of the show. So we've got some questions for you. I mean, what's been going on with you this week, though, otherwise?
This is what we're calling my tapering down week because I am headed out to Chicago on Sunday to run the Chicago Marathon. Mm-hmm. So just winding down, getting in my last long run, and then just trying to take it easy. So that's what I've been doing this past week and this upcoming week, too.
Okay. Now, when is that marathon?
Sunday.
This Sunday?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So if this was your last long run, this must have been like about a 20-mile or an 18-mile?
No. Today I did 15. Okay. Only 15.
Only 15. Only. Come on now. All right. Well, that's interesting because I know for those out there listening to us, Dr. Michele and I have 1 degree of separation. My wife happens to also be a runner and runs with a group with Dr. Michele, Black Girls Run. Shout out to Black Girls Run all over the United States. But that's how my wife and Dr. Michele met. So it was interesting. One day I was talking to Ted and mentioned her, and she's like, I think I know her. And then we saw a photograph. She's like, yeah, I know that lady. She runs with me. So it's one of those things you never know what's going to happen.
That's true. That is so true. Yes, I think because the last time I ran with her, we were in Central Park together.
Right, about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, maybe?
Probably a little longer than that.
She's always running. I know how you runners are. Every weekend you're off and going somewhere else and, come back all sweaty, but, It's
okay, now you're going to talk about us.
I didn't say it was a bad thing. But also, speaking of my wife, later on, with everything that's been going on recently, everything that's in the news, police shootings of, black and white, everything going on. At one point, she had just gotten fed up and had enough almost, and sat down after watching all the news and started typing on her phone, no less. And she was gone probably for about an hour and wrote this really, really long, moving poem, which I was able to get her to actually narrate and dictate. So we'll play that later on. for the listeners.
Oh,
it's
good.
really, heart-wrenching once you listen to it. So I would like to share that with everyone.
So I'm looking forward to hearing it because I saw it, I think, on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing it spoken because those are two different ways of interpreting things. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what else we have going on here today. We'll take a look. Well, what else? What else is going on? I know you're doing the running. So do you have anything else going on this week?
As far as that, I think it's just taking everything easy, just enjoying ourselves and making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as far as our health and just enjoying the week.
Yeah, speaking of health, with this weather, this time of year, it's allergy season. Just the last couple of days, I've started getting the itchy eyes, getting the scratchy throat, looking around like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't like to take a lot of medication, so it's trying to stay hydrated, trying to get enough rest. It's all things that's hard to do, running around from work day to day, back and forth into the city all the time. You're exposed to everything out there in the trains and the buses, walking around. So, I think that's something that we all need to kind of take into consideration. I know, the things that are really important, washing your hands, covering your mouth, do the elbow cover instead of covering with your hand to share the germs everywhere.
Yes, and make sure you continually wash your hands. That's really the key to prevent anything from spreading. And with allergies, we just need a good rain to help to wash away the pollen, and that hasn't really happened. So I think that's what's making it a lot worse for our asthmatics and for those who have allergies. They're coming in hot and heavy with us.
Right. I'm sure you've been seeing a lot of that in your practice.
Most definitely.
So I think we're about to take a break. We'll come right back, and then I got some more questions for Dr. Michele, specifically around our candidates, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and some potential health issues that they may have. So when we come back from the break, we'll discuss that. This is Rich and Dr. Michele at Late Night Parents.
I am loving my Verizon FiOS. In fact, I recently joked that if we move, we have to find a place with FiOS coverage. To my surprise, our family actually agreed. Not only is FiOS the fastest internet service, it also has never been down, with the exception of when Storm Sandy hit us. And indeed, only FiOS gives you the same speed uploading for your files, photos, etc., as it does downloading, as in HD movies. Cable cannot offer you this, only FiOS. So go ahead, make a very smart choice with Verizon FiOS. If you like your radio a bit on the fantastic side, try listening to the Happy Hour Network on Blog Talk Radio. The Happy Hour Network features live shows such as Late Night Parents with Ted Hicks, Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue with Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell, The Seahawks Show with Kevin Daggett, and NBA Full Court Press with Danny Thompson. You can also catch podcasts like The Fwat Show, the Earnestly Speaking Podcast, Cinema Savants, and The Tennis Scene, found at blogtalkradio.com/Happy Hour Network. The Happy Hour Network, radio worth listening to.
Are you looking for some sick sports apparel? DHTK designed some of the newest and coolest brands such as Represent, Game Over, and Don't Hate the King. DHTK's vision is to integrate culture, fashion, and attitude that best represents the players and caters to us, the fans. Click on DHTK.com and subscribe to their mailing list for an automatic 10% off your order. If you are a basketball fan, follow DHTK on social media. Visit DHTK.com for more details. DHTK.com. You don't have to be a king to dress like one.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late night parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late night parents. That's audibletrial.com/late night parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late night parents. Thanks, and welcome back to the Late Night Parent Show with your substitute hosts, Dr. Michele and Rich. So, Dr. Michele, I have some questions for you. So, we recently had the debates. So,
Yes.
We've seen the candidates, what they look like on camera. We've been seeing them for the last few months. But recently, there were some questions, first around Hillary Clinton. You know, we saw them escorting her from aircraft. Looked like they were almost carrying her. Looked like she fell down. Mm-hmm. Of course, the other side was trying to trump this up. Not play on words, right? Trying to trump this up.
You couldn't resist that one.
I didn't practice that. I
You
swear
were
I
holding
didn't.
that one
I
in.
swear I didn't. But they were. And, you know, trying to maybe make this look worse than it might be. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they were speaking the truth. You know, so do we know... One, do you think that they're telling the whole story there, that they're making it larger than it is? Or what's your outlook?
Well, I guess just in defense of being a doctor, I like to say that a definition of a healthy person is someone who's never been to the doctor. Because you come into our office, we're going to find something wrong with you. Be it a pimple on your nose or a rash that you didn't realize that you had somewhere where you never even looked. We're going to find something because that's our job. We are detectives of medicine. With that being said, none of us are healthy. Okay. At the same time, we have two people, one who is 68, which is Hillary Clinton, yeah. And one who is 70. Mm-hmm. So Donald Trump, if he was to get elected or if he is to get elected, he would be our oldest president that we've had. So as we age, there's an increased likelihood of something being wrong as far as our medical health. Mm-hmm. So as far as them saying or their doctors saying that they are in excellent condition, both of them have medical histories.
Right.
With Hillary Clinton, we know that she has hypothyroidism, so she has an underactive thyroid. She is on medicine blood thinners because of her history of blood clots that she's had. Mm-hmm. And as far as Donald Trump, we know that he has high cholesterol and he is not at a healthy weight. He's considered overweight, borderline obese. And I think he recently lost weight. So his body mass index probably has gone down, but he's still not in the healthy category. Okay. So either way, we are dealing with people who do have medical illnesses that they do have to take medicine for and probably follow up with their doctor at least 3 to 4 times. Or at least 3 to 4 times a year or every 3 to 4 months is probably more likely to do blood work to check Hillary's thyroid and to check her levels as far as her INR, as her clotting factors with her being on the Coumadin, and with Donald Trump to check his cholesterol and also his liver enzymes, which could go up with the medicine that he's on for his cholesterol.
Now, just curious, on the hypothyroidism, what kind of long-term effects can that cause?
Well, as long as your thyroid is controlled on the medicine, there are no side effects that we have to worry about. Okay. The thing is when you are untreated or uncontrolled is when you will have symptoms. So some people might feel sluggish. Some people might feel palpitations of their heart. They might gain weight. They might lose weight. But once you're on the appropriate dose of your medicine, you're well controlled. Right. Just like anything. Okay. You take blood pressure medicine like you're supposed to. You lose weight. You eat as you're supposed to. Your blood pressure is perfect on the medicine.
And on Donald Trump's side, so the liver and those issues, obviously you're saying if he takes his medication...
And he follows up and does his blood work like he should be. Mm-hmm. And as long as they're monitoring his liver function tests, he should be fine.
But what if he doesn't?
Well, if he doesn't, I mean, that's on him and his doctor. But then again, his doctor can't force him to do anything. Right. Like I can't force my patients to take their medicine. People are human and they do as they please. And I think, you always have to consider the overall health of anyone. Like you're concerned about your family member. So at the same time, yes, people are scrutinizing their family history. I think Donald Trump had a history with his dad maybe having Alzheimer's. Yes. So we don't know the long-term effects if he'll get Alzheimer. Right. But then again, I think I was reading something in the New York Times where someone in New York said, well, I'm not really concerned about their medical history. as far as for Hillary Clinton, I'm more concerned that Donald Trump is psychotic or has some type of psychiatric illness and he's crazy. And that's what someone said, because that's not something that they're dealing with as far as mental health.
Right, right.
That's very key. Whoever is going to lead our country, we need to know where they are mentally.
That's true. So, some would also say that anyone who wants that job has a problem already, and I don't know how true that may or may not be, but that's something to take into consideration. Absolutely.
I heard that you were interested.
No, not me. No, thank you. I will pass. No, you're next on that job, though. That's
no, not at all. Politics and me, I am trying to stay as far away as possible.
Yeah, I'll sit this out myself. So going to the health. So I mentioned that we saw with Hillary Clinton that they had mentioned pneumonia. Now, are there differences? So they had claimed that she had bacterial pneumonia. So is there another type of pneumonia, and is one contagious, one not?
Well, the more common type is viral pneumonia. And most of the illnesses that we have are usually caused by viruses, just like how we have the flu every year. And some seasons we get it right as far as the flu vaccine, and sometimes we don't. But at the same time, with viruses, they just go away on their own with rest and just taking an easy, proper hydration. Now, sometimes a viral illness can lead to a bacterial illness, and that's probably how it started with Hillary Clinton, her having a viral illness that eventually progressed to where she needed antibiotics, leading to a bacterial pneumonia. So we know that being on the presidential campaign is very intense. You're not necessarily sleeping the way you should be. People are always at your ear. So when you think that you can rest, probably something jumps up and you got to deal with that. So we don't know what sort of triggered this, and we don't know what she was doing that caused her immune system to get affected by this bacterial pneumonia. But once you take your antibiotics and rest and the body heals, you're good to go.
Got it.
So she should be fine.
Okay, so they had also said about dehydration that was also a factor. Could that have also been a consideration or something that could have helped avoid this potentially?
Well, if you're already not feeling well and you're already tired and your body has some type of infection that you're trying to fight, it's key that you stay hydrated. And I think around that time we had a lot of humid days, because I remember I was out running and I would be out there sweating like I don't know what, because it was so humid, and at times I felt like I couldn't even breathe, and I know I don't have asthma.
Right.
So no telling, and I think when I looked, when she was at the 9/11 memorial, she had on a full suit with a jacket. So she probably overheated.
Okay, all right. I guess that would make sense. And I know that people don't realize when they're becoming dehydrated, especially runners, but anyone, when it's hot, when you even feel yourself sweating a little bit, you're really giving off so much more moisture than you're aware. And you'll get dehydrated before you know it. That once you start feeling thirsty, once you have that dry mouth, you're already well into it. And that's when you need to stop, get some water, get something else in, some electrolytes, do the Gatorade, get something in you to try to avoid that and alleviate the condition, because it can come in quickly.
Because more times than not, we don't drink enough as a whole. So you tell somebody to drink 5-6 glasses of water, be happy if they get one for the day. How much did you drink today? No, totally kidding.
About 8. I had about 8 glasses of water today. I think. But isn't it also true that, things I've read regarding hydration, we also do get a lot of liquid from what you eat.
Yes.
So, of course, some things are more
especially
full than
fruits
others.
and vegetables. That they have a very high water content. So if you're eating your proper amount of fruits and vegetables throughout the day, you're getting a lot of water in that way, as opposed to you reaching for a soda that is not really offering you any real caloric intake.
Empty calories.
That's
along with the body has to process all the chemicals, all the sugar out of it. So that water is almost pointless.
That's right.
Okay.
That is so true. And I was going to say, and the other thing that people were concerned about was that a couple of years ago, I think it was like in 2012, Hillary Clinton had a stomach virus and apparently was dehydrated at that time, fell and hit her head in the bathroom, and then developed a concussion. And on top of that, she had a blood clot.
Right.
So that can happen to anyone. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we have to remember that she doesn't have any residual effects from that, and she's fine.
Okay. The blood clot, I take that to heart. I've had issues myself with the blood clots. So isn't that also something that, granted, they know the cause of that one specifically, she fell, hit her head, that caused it. But does the site where the impact occurred, the site and the location wherever that clot started to form, is that susceptible to a clot happening again in the future?
No, it shouldn't happen again. It should not happen again, because that was triggered by the trauma of her falling and hitting her head.
Right.
So she should be okay.
Interesting. All right, so also regarding Trump, he's the older of the two candidates. Like you said, he's 70 now. Let's say he wins office. By the end of it, he'll be 74. Is this just overall, as people age, do you know, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here because I'm just, thinking about this in general, but is there anything that you think we need to take into consideration as far as how his mental capacity? Because everyone, you hear people talking, you get older, you start to forget about things. You get older, things change. Let's say he does two terms. The man could be 76, 77. Are you really, really capable of making those decisions? Or is there anything as we age that we have to concern ourselves with, do you think? Or not?
Well, as always, when you age, your reflexes become slower. And at the same time, your patience, I think, gets a little shorter. So the concern is we have to look as where he is now as far as his patience level and his mental status. Okay. And you can see I'm choosing my words very carefully here.
I know we are being non-political, and I would actually ask the same question about Hillary, because 2 years is not really that much of a difference, especially when you get up to that age.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, you have to look at where they are now mentally, and if people are concerned about his mental status now, as far as the comments that he makes and the more comments that he makes, the older you get, the likelier you're going to hear more of those things coming to light.
Less filter.
That's probably the better thing to say.
I think it's fair when everyone, I know I've heard older friends, when they were 40s, they would hold their tongue and maybe not say something. Now they hit their 50s and 60s, they're like, I don't care, I'm just going to say it.
I can say whatever I want to say because I'm old.
Exactly. So I think you're right. We may end up seeing some of that. That could be.
Right. That's very true.
We do have to, again, we're just talking about the candidates and their health. It is a tough job. You have to figure they are on the road. I don't know what the exact number is, but you got to figure on the road, traveling around the world half the time during the year spent doing that. And for anyone to be traveling up and down on aircraft, the mental stresses of, the speeches, the dinners,
and remembering
the issues.
Who you're talking to and what the latest thing that is going on in the media, that's a lot of stress. And at the same time, if this is stressful as far as the campaign, how is it going to be the president of the United States and running the country?
Yeah. Very, very true. We have to.
But at the same time, when you're president, you do have a more robust staff that is on hand, making sure that you are somewhat protected from certain things, and well fed and well taken care of, eating the way you're supposed to, getting the proper amount of sleep. You're flying, I think, probably on the nicest aircraft
Air
in the
Force
world.
One. I hope it doesn't get any better than Air Force One, because if it does, we're doing something wrong. That's how I look at that.
So, but I mean, at the same time, it is stressful. So either way, we have to make sure that whoever we do elect is that we feel comfortable in knowing that the next 4 years, they are going to be the ones that are leading the United States of America.
Well said. Well said. I think I know someone now who needs to volunteer to be a staff doctor for the White House. I think we should make that happen.
That would be nice. And don't worry, we can do late night parents right there at the White House.
You send that letter. Ted, you heard it. She has just volunteered to do this. So we'll make this happen.
That's right.
So, I'll stay with health because you as a runner.
Yes.
And we're going totally forget the president now. Forget everything that's going on with the candidates. As a runner, what types of things? Because again, running marathons, I've been a witness to the New York Marathon when my wife ran. Mm-hmm. So I was there at the finish line, and some people looks like they can go on and run another 20 miles, and they just prance across the finish line. Other people, they get there and it's fall right out, collapse, land on the ground, heaving, panting. What real effects does that have on the body? Are there long-term effects that you have to take into consideration when doing these long type runs?
As far as running the marathon or just doing long runs in general, the key is to make sure that you are not deciding that one morning you're going to wake up and run 26.2 miles. Mm-hmm. It's something that you gradually work your way up to. And at the same time, you have to stay properly hydrated. You have to make sure you get your sleep, because I know I'm thinking, oh, yes, I'm going to get my 8-9 hours of sleep. And if I wake up and I only had 5 or 4, there is no way in the world that I'm going to be able to run more than 3-4 miles. So getting your proper sleep is one of the things that we need to also talk about, and eating like you're supposed to.
Right.
Can't go out and have some fried chicken and some macaroni and cheese.
But it tastes so good.
Yes, and think that's what you're going to use to fuel your run. No, you have to have a healthy intake. A lot of people like to say all that wear and tear affects your joints. Mm-hmm. No more than you walking around or standing on your job does it affect your joints. Okay. You're going to get wear and tear anyway.
Okay.
It's the point of making sure that you listen to your body and don't abuse it. Okay. So I ran 15 miles today. Guess what? Mm-hmm. Tomorrow I'm not going to go out and run 15 miles. I'm not going to run anything else really that's major until next week Sunday.
Right.
So knowing your limits, listening to your body. If your body is tired, you don't push yourself. If you're starting to feel dizzy, any point in time, you need to stop. I remember when I ran the marathon, I got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at the finish line, and you want to just stop, but you can't just stop. You have to walk because your body's been in constant motion for 26.2 miles. So always listen to your body, whatever your exercise routine is. And I think, is it time for us to take another break?
Yep, it's time for a break. So thank you very much, Dr. Michele, for your input and wise, sage advice for ourselves and for the candidates. And now we'll go to a short break. Thank you. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents. That's audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine and newspaper publishers, and business information providers. That's audibletrials.com/late-night-parents.
I am loving my Verizon FiOS. In fact, I recently joked that if we move, we have to find a place with FiOS coverage. To my surprise, our family actually agreed. Not only is FiOS the fastest internet service, it also has never been down, with the exception of when Storm Sandy hit us. And indeed, only FiOS gives you the same speed uploading for your files, photos, etc., as it does downloading, as in HD movies. Cable cannot offer you this, only FiOS. So go ahead, make a very smart choice with Verizon FiOS. If you like your radio a bit on the fantastic side, try listening to the Happy Hour Network on Blog Talk Radio. The Happy Hour Network features live shows such as Late Night Parents with Ted Hicks, Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue with Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell, The Seahawks Show with Kevin Daggett, and NBA Full Court Press with Danny Thompson. You can also catch podcasts like The Fwat Show, the Earnestly Speaking Podcast, Cinema Savants, and The Tennis Scene, found at blogtalkradio.com/Happy Hour Network. The Happy Hour Network, radio worth listening to.
Are you looking for some sick sports apparel? DHTK designed some of the newest and coolest brands such as Represent, Game Over, and Don't Hate the King. DHTK's vision is to integrate culture, fashion, and attitude that best represents the players and caters to us, the fans. Click on DHTK.com and subscribe to their mailing list for an automatic 10% off your order. If you are a basketball fan, follow DHTK on social media. Visit DHTK.com for more details. DHTK.com. You don't have to be a king to dress like one.
Thanks and welcome back. Our next guest, I would like to introduce Mac Bogert. Mac is the founder of AZA Learning, an organization which was formed to encourage teachers and students to become equal partners in the learning process. He has also written a book, Learning Chaos, How Disorder Can Save Education, which can be found at www.learningchaos.net. He has served as education coordinator at Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts, and he is still active in this arts community and his community. So I'd like to welcome Mac to the show. Hi, Mac.
Hi. Very, 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 very glad to be here. Thank you for the introduction. I feel like, who is this guy?
I'm sure it's all well-deserved, I'm sure.
So, Mac, this is Dr. Michelle. I was so excited, to know that you're going to be on the show because I am the mother of twin boys who are in 7th grade. So, with that being said, you said wow because they're in 7th grade, or wow because I sound so young to have kids?
Both. Dodged the bullet.
Cover yourself, say all of the above.
Well, with that being said, what is the deal with homeschooling? What types of families usually try and homeschool their children, and why is it so popular?
Well, it's gone through waves of popularity. Last I checked, it's about 7% of families in this country. Now, you might think that's high or low, but I think that's a pretty high number, actually. Most parents who homeschool follow one of sort of two competing philosophies. Some parents who homeschool keep their kids out of public schools because they want to limit their exposure to certain philosophies, certain ideas, certain social, things like, gangs and tattoos and those kinds of things. And then the other wave for homeschooling is parents who want to give their children opportunities to have access to learning that they might not be able to get in school.
So then what do you think the advantage of homeschooling is then?
Lots of advantages in that second group. I'm not a big proponent of keeping children home in order to limit what they learn, because I think part of what I believe from a lot of experience and a lot of research is kids. Well, you have kids; they're sponges for learning.
Yes.
I mean, they are smarter than we are. Thank goodness we control the money. And watching children expand their knowledge and insight and wisdom is just one of the great pleasures of being alive. So parents, for instance, can, and this is something my parents did for us as children, they took us out of school frequently. Mm-hmm. We went on trips. We went up to see the atomic submarines up in New Haven. We went up to the Great Smoky Mountains. We took road trips to Florida. This is before Disney World, to see the Everglades. And there were 4 of us kids, and we all had to write papers and keep a journal. And the deal was, when we came back to our school classrooms, we would do a presentation for the class about what we learned on the trip.
Okay.
But I was going to say, but the only thing that if we try to do that now, we run the risk of missing so much homework and classwork, and it's more of a disadvantage for us to take the children out of school to miss school, even if it is something that they would experience educationally, because they're missing teaching for the test.
Well, my problem with that is with the idea of teaching for the test in the first place. I can understand the sort of political implications and the idea of accountability and trying to measure what children have learned. But the biggest problem I have with that standardized approach is that none of those tests measure children's capacity for learning. What they generally measure is children's capacity to that point in their lives for being able to regurgitate what they were given.
Sure.
So then what's the disorder that can save our education?
Well, I think we need to give teachers, whom I respect greatly, there's nothing about what I believe or about my book which disses teachers in any way. I think everybody should have to be a public school teacher for 1 year. The disorder is to start break down any structures in schools that hold kids back from learning. And part of that is standardized testing. Part of it is grade levels. There's no reason for putting children in grade levels except for convenience for a taking role. We know, and there's lots of data to support this, that when kids mentor other kids, like, you have 14-year-old kids who mentor 7-year-old kids, both of their learning performance goes ballistic. It's because they learn about emotional intelligence, they learn about tolerance, they learn to communicate across barriers. They learn to lead and to follow and to take responsibility for what they learn and teach. I mean, it's a very powerful thing, and we could do it in the public schools. I mean, there are some things which would be tough to do in public schools, but we can do that one, and it's very powerful.
Well, okay. So if you have all these the advantages or the opportunities with homeschooling, it comes down to then, well, what does this cost you to homeschool? So if you can alleviate having the expenses of even those that come in with public schooling, you have expenses. Of course, if you send your child to a private school, you have astronomical expenses. But what if you choose to do homeschooling? What expenses or what's the real cost there?
I haven't done any hard research on this, so I can't give you any sort of statistical answer. But we live in an age, and this is obvious, but it's still true, when we can get access to information and learning at the drop of a mouse, right?
Right.
So in any household, assuming that they have access to the internet, and I know lots of houses don't in this day and age, that strikes me as crazy, but we have libraries, for instance. So there are gazillions of apps covering every topic. You can do virtual tours of the Louvre in Paris with your kids. You can do a virtual tour of the landing in Normandy at the end of World War II, or the Battle of Hastings, or the Globe Theater. All the things that we used to need classrooms to do on a chalkboard, you can do from anywhere on a computer if the parents are looking to expand what their kids can do and not to limit it. That's, as I said, that's my biggest problem with any homeschoolers who are trying to protect their kids from learning stuff, because you can't.
Right.
So in other words, the parents have to really be open to the challenges of today and making sure that their kids get the exposure that they need.
You're on to my trick, because it's as good for the parents as it is for the children.
Yes.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
But what do you do in the case of the parent that is choosing to do the homeschooling because, as you mentioned before, they don't want them to be exposed to a certain ideology or theology or opinion? What do you do for those that are intentionally holding the child back?
I don't know that there is a solution for that. I certainly wouldn't recommend any kind of legal recourse or anything, because that opens a whole can of worms about who's in charge of what children learn. But I think parents who make that choice are making a foolish choice, because their children, at some point, unless they're in the basement when they're 60 years old, which I hope none of us want, their kids are going to be able to get to it, right?
Right.
That's true. I mean, the kids have more access to the internet than some of the parents.
Well, then most of us parents, I mean, if you've watched a 9-year-old on a computer, right? I'm like, wait a minute. No, stop. No, what? They're like, no, right?
Yeah.
You sound like when one of my twins was showing my dad how to send a picture from his cell phone.
Uh-huh.
He's like, "Oh, just take the phone and do it, please."
Okay, Grandpa. Gee.
Yeah, and you know, that's such a neat thing for kids to be able to access. Now, you know, we need to give them guidance. We need to give them good common sense about where not to go on the internet. You know, there's a whole raft of other kind of issues, but access to information is no longer an issue.
Right.
Right?
Yes, that's true. It's there. You just have to make sure you use it properly.
There it is.
So, have they done any studies yet as far as comparing how the homeschooled or primarily homeschooled students do versus traditionally educated students in the social aspect?
Because I was asked to write 4 articles about homeschooling, so I did a lot of research. I can find no data to suggest, though it struck me as kind of counterintuitive, that homeschool kids are less emotionally intelligent or have fewer social skills than kids who are in the blackboard jungle, as the movie was called. Mm-hmm. Because one of the objections that I often hear about that is homeschool kids don't gain social skills. But I've searched. I could find no information that really conclusively shows that.
So let's say a student is homeschooled up through what we would traditionally call 12th grade. Mm-hmm. Are there then, at that point, any exams that are taken? Do they still follow the same course of, you know, SATs for getting into college, or any of the other exams which are taken to gauge where they stand educationally, or how does that work at that point?
Well, schools are, post-secondary schools are starting to move away from test scores as their primary indicator for admission, mm-hmm. which I think is good.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I was a great test taker. I got really good test scores, and it's not because I'm brighter than other kids. It's because I'm a good test taker. You know, Einstein was a terrible test taker, and he was okay. So as schools move away from like SAT scores as a primary focus, they aren't as necessary, and preparing for the SAT can be done anywhere. That can be done by the parents too, and you know, that's where the parents and the children sit down and say, okay, what are we doing this for? And right. That goes back to the point I was hoping to make earlier about kids having more to say about what they learn. Mm-hmm. You know, so son, you're going to be homeschooled with me and your mom and Uncle Fred or whatever. And if you want to go to college, let's talk about why that's a good idea. And if you think it's a good idea, here are the 5 things that you need to do. It's like getting your driver's license, right? If you want to get your driver's license, these are some things you have to do.
Right. Well, that makes sense when you put it like that. Of course, like I said, at 7%, it's still more of an experiment, it seems, or at this point, maybe you can call it more of a growing trend.
But I'm starting to see a lot more in patients that are coming in, and their parents are staying home to homeschool them. So that's becoming quite popular that I'm seeing on Long Island.
I think it is, especially given the sort of social and political turmoil that we seem to be in. I think you're going to see it grow because when things are chaotic, and I'm a lover of chaos, as you know, people tend to homeschool more. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see it grow. And maybe part of what we can do as a society and culture is to carve out better avenues for parents to use who choose to homeschool to lighten the burden for them. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Mac, I would like to just, close out. I did read the excerpt of your book. I love your writing style because you were comparing the school to the prison system. So very interesting. So I'm definitely going to check you out. But for those who are listening, how can they go about purchasing your book, and how's the best way to find you on social media?
Well, it is on Amazon. It's Kindle and Nook and Barnes & Noble and Kobo, which is basically an international distributor. So all of those avenues. If you go to the website, which is www.learningchaos.net, I couldn't get .com, so I got .net. Mm-hmm. And if you just Google Learning Chaos, it will take you to my Facebook page. It will take you to buying the book. It will take you to a podcast. I do a Learning Chaos podcast. So if you just put Learning Chaos in your computer, you've got lots of choices, and it still pops up first, which I'm very glad for.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being part of the show. And we are looking forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you, Michelle, and my best to you and your twins.
Thank you very much. Well, you know we need it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Take care, y'all.
Yes.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I'm excited about this next segment, and I'm going to let you do the introduction.
Oh, thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, my wife was having a moment after looking at the news and seeing everything that was going on, and just started writing this poem regarding life, regarding racial injustice and things we've been experiencing recently. So I would just like to share that with you and the rest of our listeners.
I'm so tired by Linda Valdez. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of turning on my television or opening my social media pages and seeing the killing of another black man. I'm so tired of reading the posts of people disparaging the black community for their outrage and for the way they protest, whether silently taking a knee, marching, or downright civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is a huge part of American history. Many of the gains that we have been achieved happened in part because of civil disobedience. I'm so tired that on my social media feed there's nothing but silence when another unarmed or licensed to carry black man or even a child is killed. Just once, I was hoping that maybe someone would say, "How awful," would question what's going on, would offer sympathy to a family or a community. But none of that. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of their use of the word ignorant leveled towards protesters and those who have been killed. I'm so tired that they think they can tell black people in America how we should be responding to an outrage that hasn't manifested itself in their communities. I'm so tired that these educated people so freely espouse their opinions disguised as facts. I'm so tired that so many think it's okay to say what they want without regard to others, yet let the reverse happen and they lose their minds. I'm so tired of hearing folks say that violence is not American and not the way to get results, yet that's what this America was founded on. I'm so tired. I wish they would take their blinders and rose-colored glasses off and see the truth. I took my rose-colored glasses off a long time ago. And what I opened my eyes to is reality, an ugly but true reality in America. I am so tired. I am so tired of smiling when I feel like yelling. I'm so tired of being the go-to black friend when an associate calls them out on their racist views. I am so tired of being silent. My silence ends today. The truth is, The New World, this United States of America, was formed out of ethnic and racial violence that from the first time European settlers stepped foot on this land, a land that was already occupied by existing Native Americans, yet through violence amounting to genocide, nearly an entire population of people was killed, and the land was suddenly discovered by someone else. This violence is a part of America's democratic history. I am so tired. The narrative that was spoon-fed to all of us as children about the nice pilgrims helping the quote-unquote savage Indians and the wonderful celebratory Thanksgiving dinner is a fallacy perpetuated to maintain someone else's supremacy. I am so tired. Violence in America is not the democratic way. That's funny. Tell that to the many black people, Africans, dragged to this country in inhumane conditions in the belly of ships, forced to live and work as slaves. Slavery was violence. That is a part of America's violent democratic history. I am so tired. The origins of America's own original homegrown terrorist group, the Ku Klux Klan, the Night Riders who threatened, maimed, hung, shot, killed, and burned black people, basically for sport, while a blind eye was turned, is all a part of America's violent democratic history. I am so tired. This country was built on violence, savagery, and racism. Its gains were secured off the backs of those who they controlled through violence. I am so tired. I could mention the violence and internment of innocent Asians, but I won't because, well, at least there was an acknowledgement of a wrong and reparations paid. I am so tired. I am so tired of folks talking about the low percentage of black people owning property. Yet they forget that blacks were shut out of that process for decades through the systemic racism written into FHA and other documents. I am so tired. I am so tired of folks talking about the number of black people in prisons and the number of black people residing in ghettos, yet they fail to talk about how the mass incarceration of nonviolent minor drug offenses sent millions of black men and women to prison, destroyed their families, and eviscerated their communities, yet whites who did the same thing were not arrested or imprisoned at the same rate or for the same length of time. I am so tired. I am so tired of hearing how black people should get over slavery, the civil rights movement, and Jim Crow. Now that's funny because the fallout of all of that still exists today. Just because you don't talk about it or because you are not personally affected by it doesn't mean that it does not exist. I am so tired. I am so tired of reminding my sons of what to do to hopefully stay alive in this post-civil rights America. But I still have to, because someone who carries fear, ignorance, or racism within them may not see my sons for the well-raised, well-educated young men that they are. I am so tired. This Southern-born 60s child with a radical spirit is tired. If you didn't watch your grandmother who worked as a domestic go in the back door of a home and hear the young child call her by her first name while she referred to him as Mr., then you can't tell me about respect. If you haven't been followed in a store and watched while shopping, you don't have a right to tell me how to act or feel about anything. If you haven't had the police watch you in a parking lot after your son's basketball game ended for 10 whole minutes, and as soon as the last white child left, zoom his car so close to you that you thought he was going to run down your child, only to ask you, "What are you folks doing over here?" and interrogate you like you were a criminal, then you can't tell me how to react to the police. If you haven't had to remind your kids that just because of the color of their skin, they may be perceived a certain way by some people and that they can't do the same things as their friends because somehow if they do it, it's criminal, though if their friends do it, it's just kids being kids, then you can't tell me how to raise my children. If you never had a well-meaning friend tell you, well, that her parent doesn't like black people because of an incident that they encountered once with a black person, but he likes you, and somehow make that okay, then you can't tell me about racism. You don't hold an entire race of people in contempt because of the action of one. If you haven't had a supervisor on a work outing to the beach try to reassure you that it's okay that you can't swim because she read in a book that blacks can't swim because of how they're built, then you don't have a right to tell me what is ignorant. I am so tired. I am so tired of the ignorance spewed by people who are more outraged by an athlete for failing to stand for an anthem than they are when a person is killed. I am so tired that they haven't removed their blinders. I can no longer remain silent. Silence is blind acceptance, and I removed my blinders a long time ago.
And there is not much more I can say after that.
I don't think there's anything to say because that can be a whole show and another show and another show and another show after that because I think we've all experienced those things.
All I will do is testify that everything she mentioned as happening did happen. Mm-hmm. I was there for some of it. Mm-hmm. That's the world we live in now. We hope we can make changes. We hope that people stop looking at people because of color and see them just as humans.
That's true.
And that's all there is to it. So, Dr. Michele, anything going on for you this week besides the run in Chicago?
Well, that's the main thing that's coming up on Sunday is the Chicago Marathon.
Okay.
But I think that we should all, if you can, once we post this show, is to listen again and write down how you're feeling because we all have these strong feelings that we can't shut down.
Good point. Social media, how do we get in contact with you?
Ask Dr. Michele.com, AskDrMichele.com.
All right, and if you need to get me, I am Richie V, the real Richie V at Facebook or Richie V _NY at for Twitter. I want to say thank you very much to Ted for giving us the opportunity to fill in for him.
I hope we didn't let him down.
Well, I haven't gotten any tweets, any messages just yet, so I think we'll be okay there.
And once again, thank you for coming in and being a part of the show with me.
It was more than a pleasure. Finally get to meet you in person after hearing so much about you. All good, everything positive. I was not aware you had twin sons. So,
yes.
I know how that is. You know, we've got ours. Ours are our oldest are 15 months apart. We treated them almost like twins. Twin boys. I don't know how you do it. You still smile, but that explains why you run. That's to burn off all that energy.
And we're going to close on that note. Have a good week.
Have a good week.
Expressed in the previous program did not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.